Hello, everyone. My name is Robin Wheeling, and I want to apologize first and foremost for my appearance. I am battling allergies at the moment, so my voice may come and go while I am talking to you about my research paper. Starting off with my research paper, it is going to be about the use of read technique and interrogation and the possibility of false confessions that are obtained through this interrogation technique. It's also going to look at the possibility of false confessions increasing with this technique in certain subsets of people. Those subsets we're going to be speaking about are those who might have intellectual disabilities and juveniles. So that's what we're going to be looking at here. The reason that this research is important is because it has come to light that there have been many people that have been convicted of pretty horrific crimes because of false confessions. And one of the major reasons we have found this is because of the use of DNA evidence. Of course, DNA evidence is huge. And most of these cases that we use this kind of evidence in is going to be crimes of murder, rape, something pretty significant where something has been collected that can later be used to obtain DNA from the possible suspect offender that did this crime. Um, of course, some of your lower level crimes, you're not going to have that DNA evidence. So it's going to be kind of hard to tell false confession rates on those. However, with the use of DNA, we are able to see that there have been a pretty significant number of false confessions that have later proven to be false. So the Innocence Project they brought this to light for us. We have found that since 1992, 25% of convictions that have been overturned with DNA evidence were actually convictions because of false confessions. So a lot of people have a hard time believing that someone would confess to something they did not do. This is actually it's a very relevant thing, and people do that. My hypothesis, or I'm sorry, my thesis for this class is that the use of coercive and accusatory interrogations, such as the read technique, uh, can increase the likelihood of false confessions, especially in those certain subsets of the public. So, literature review, the first thing we're going to look at is just the history of interrogations and how those have come about, how they did come about, and how they have evolved throughout history. Then we're going to look specifically at the read, interview, and interrogation technique. I have actually went to several schools for read technique. I've been through the basic, the advanced, and also the child sexual abuse and sexual assault read technique school. So I'm very familiar with the read technique. And it never really hit me how coercive and accusatory it actually can be until I started researching some of this stuff earlier. And then lastly, we're also going to look at research before that has been done on false confessions, on the types of false confessions and the classifications. And so that's one thing I think is very important, is to understand the different kinds of false confessions and how this interrogative technique can directly cause these types of false confessions. So that's one thing we're also going to look at. Um, so we're going to look at how many false confessions can actually be pointed back towards the read technique, and that's going to be a little tricky so far. As far as my research has found, most of the time it is not traced all the way back to see what kind of interrogation technique was used to obtain the false confession. However, a lot of times we can kind of guesstimate that, right now in the United States, the read technique is the most used technique of interrogation. It's widely used even throughout the world, even though most of the world now is going away from the read technique because they do understand how coercive and how accusatory it is and how it can contribute to false confessions. So that's what we're going to be looking at with my paper, and also Sorry about that.
Mom.
So I apologize for that. My daughter had to come in just at the time I was recording. So, in conclusion, we're going to be looking at a quantitative analysis of this. Of course, it's going to be so hard to get an actual number of false confessions that were obtained through the read technique, but it is something still that we need to look at, so it could possibly provide us further guidance on future policies that can be created for the use of interrogation techniques. And what should be used and what should not be used. So I believe this is a very important area that needs to be covered. I also feel like that, other areas that can be looked at with this that I've not found a whole lot about is the direct use of read technique and false confessions on just your general public, not talking about the special subsets, juveniles, those with mental illnesses, those with limited capacities. We need to look at just the general use of this, and understand just how coercive it is and how likely it is to obtain a false confession. So that is going to be my paper, and it's been very interesting so far researching all of this. And I hope you all do well on your papers. Thanks.